Tired of spending money on fad diets, weight loss drugs, and ineffective weight loss products? If you're looking for a way to lose weight and improve your metabolic health, Golo could be a great solution for you. The team at Golo created a patented, all-natural dietary supplement called Release, which is clinically proven to work. Release is made of 7 plant-based ingredients and 3 key minerals that help to reverse insulin resistance and improve metabolic health. Release by Golo naturally stimulates your body's GLP-1 hormone production without synthetic and expensive meds that aren't always covered by insurance. This helps to curb appetite and balance blood sugar levels. More than 5,000 doctors have recommended Golo to their patients. It's a comprehensive weight loss solution that's safe, easy, and clinically proven to work. With taking just 1 to 3 Release capsules daily, you'll quickly get control of your metabolic health within 30 days. For a happier, healthier you, visit Golo.com to get started on a more energetic version of yourself and enjoy 10% off with the code KateCasey10. That's Golo.com, code KateCasey10 for 10% off. One more time, go to GOLO.com and use code KateCasey10 to join more than 5 million people who have switched to Golo as a better way to lose weight.
Don't miss Good American Family.
We have a little girl here for adoption.
She has dwarfism.
Starring Ellen Pompeo and Mark Duplass.
Something is off.
She's just a little girl. You think she's faking?
She has adult teeth. There are signs of puberty.
Inspired by the shocking stories that tore a family apart.
I don't know what's going on.
How old are you?
You should get a lawyer.
You have no idea how those people hurt this girl.
The Hulu original series, Good American Family, premieres March 19th, streaming on Hulu.
Welcome back for another episode of Reality Life with Kate Casey. Today's episode is about American Manhunt, Osama Bin Laden, which is now streaming on Netflix. On September 11th, 2001, terrorists hijacked 4 airliners in the United States. 3 of the planes were flown into buildings, the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York and the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia. A 4th plane crashed into a field in rural Pennsylvania after passengers heroically rebelled. The 9/11 attacks killed nearly 3,000 people and injured thousands more. Government and military leaders quickly deduced the attacks were carried out by bin Laden's terrorist organization. The 19 men who hijacked and crashed the 4 planes were all trained by al-Qaida, and he eventually admitted to his role in orchestrating the attacks. The 9/11 investigation was the most massive in the history of the U.S. government. Born in 1957 in Saudi Arabia, Osama bin Laden was the son of a wealthy Saudi businessman. Following the Soviet Union's invasion of Afghanistan in late 1979, bin Laden began providing financial and logistical support to the Islamic fighters battling the Soviets. In 1988, after the Soviet forces were defeated and withdrew from Afghanistan, bin Laden founded an organization called the Base, or al-Qaida, to continue the cause of jihad, holy war, through violence and aggression. Al-Qaida soon began raising money, setting up training camps and providing military and intelligence instruction in such areas as Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Sudan. Under his direction, Al-Qaida started launching attacks and bombings in various nations to further his violent aims. During this time, bin Laden was becoming increasingly hostile to the United States. In particular, he opposed the U.S. military presence in Saudi Arabia and Somalia and sought to drive the nation's personnel out of areas by force. After centering his operations in Sudan in the early 1990s, bin Laden began formulating plans to attack the West with an evolving, deadly new brand of jihad. Bin Laden and other members of al-Qaida also began issuing fatwas, rulings on Islamic law, indicating that the attacks on the U.S. and its citizens were both proper and necessary. Bin Laden later openly declared war on the United States. Now, there were several attacks before 9/11 that were notable, including on February 26, 1993, Ramzi Youssef, a young extremist who had trained in one of bin Laden's camps, led the first major Middle Eastern terrorist attack on American soil by planting a truck bomb beneath the World Trade Center. The plan to topple both towers failed, but 6 people were killed and more than 1,000 were injured. The East African bombings and indictment. One of the terrorist organization's major plots came to fruition on August 7, 1998, when al-Qaida operatives bombed U.S. embassies in Tanzania and Kenya. These attacks killed more than 200 American, Kenyan, and Tanzanian citizens and wounded another 4,500 people. Shortly after the 9/11 terrorist attacks on the United States, the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, began collecting information on key individuals connected to or providing support to bin Laden. Reporting made clear early on that he communicated via a network of couriers. It was years later, however, before more was known of one key courier than simply his operational pseudonym, Kunya. Analysts then worked several years before identifying the area in Pakistan where the courier was believed to be located. Information was collected from Guantanamo Bay detainees who gave intelligence officers the courier's pseudonym as Abu Ahmed al-Qaida and said that he was a protege of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. In 2007, U.S. officials discovered the courier's real name, and in 2009 that he lived in Abbottabad, Pakistan. CIA paramilitary operatives located al-Qaida in August 2010 and followed him back to the Abbottabad compound, which led them to speculate that it was bin Laden's location. Using satellite photos and intelligence reports, the CIA inferred the identities of the inhabitants of the compound. In September 2010, the CIA concluded that the compound was custom built to hide someone of significance and that bin Laden's residence was very likely. Officials surmised that he was living there with his youngest wife. On May 2nd, 2011, under orders from President Obama, a special operations unit raided the compound and killed Osama bin Laden. That operation on May 2nd, authorized by the president on April 29th, was a surgical raid by a small team of special operations forces designed to minimize collateral damage and to pose as little risk as possible to non-combatants on the compound or to Pakistani civilians in the neighborhood. In the aftermath, bin Laden was positively identified via several independent means. In announcing the successful operation, President Obama said, bin Laden was not a Muslim leader, he was a mass murderer of Muslims. Indeed, al-Qaida has slaughtered scores of Muslims in many countries, including our own. So his demise should be welcomed by all who believe in peace and dignity. Following the newly released American Manhunt O.J. Simpson and 2023's American Manhunt The Boston Marathon Bombing, the franchise focuses this on the efforts to find Islamic extremist Osama bin Laden. This is from directors Loushy and Daniel Sivan. This is a 3-part docuseries premiering today, providing an in-depth look at how the world mobilized to hunt down Osama bin Laden, founder of al-Qaida, and his orchestration of the September 11th attacks on the United States. It features interviews with key figures in the United States government who assisted in the global pursuit. American Manhunt Osama bin Laden recounts the decades-long mission to capture one of the world's most notorious terrorists. Here is my interview with the directors, Moore and Daniel. Moore and Daniel, I have to tell you, I cried my face off by the last episode of this series. As somebody who has covered 9/11 in so many ways over so many documentaries, it touched me deeply. And by the end of it, I just found myself in a quiet sob. So I want to commend you for the work that you put into this project. I'm sure you have a big team that went along with it. But as an American, thank you so much for what you did in this project to make us remember all of the victims of this horrific attack, but live in praise of the people who work so hard for justice.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching it.
Yeah.
It is a very, very dear project to us.
Tell me how the project came to you.
We were, we did a couple of shows before for Netflix and for other streamers. And the production company came to us. And when they, told us the story, we said immediately that we are the people to do it, that we want to do it, that we will be honored to tell the story.
I mean, when I'm looking at my son, which is now almost 13, he doesn't watch history docs. He loves history, but he needs something more accessible for his age. And we really looked into creating something that can bring, the passion behind the search and the pain behind the tragedy and the complexity of it to a young audience that is not into history docs, but is looking to just see a film. And for us, it was really about how can we convey this narrative to people who are looking back, and most of them really don't know or don't remember any of it. And we wanted them to be educated, but out of passion, not out of a feeling of education.
I think for young people who weren't, who doesn't know the 9/11 story, it is crucial because the way that we can understand our future is by understanding our history. And so I really do think it's crucial for each one of us to know the story. And to us, I think that every person remembers where he was on 9/11. Like I remember vividly where I was, and I remembered vividly where I was when Obama declared that they caught Bin Laden. But I think that those 12 years in the middle, this hunt and the hard work that the CIA people did, I don't think that a lot of people really knows the story. I don't think that no one really connects the dots. I think it's the first doc that really connects this 12 years together to a story, to a thread. And to us, the CIA inner world was fascinating, and it's voices that I've never heard before. So to us, it was really a journey as well.
Were you surprised at how, or at least when they brought the project to you, did they say this was a CIA forward project, or in the process of making it, did you realize how important the CIA was to finishing this story?
For us, from day one, it was very clear that we want to tell the story through the analysts. I mean, it's a story of people who have been chasing Bin Laden for decades before 9/11. And when the attack happened, they were in charge and they felt guilty. And they felt that even though they went and they sounded the alarm again and again and again, somehow, they didn't do enough. Somehow it slipped. And yes, this attack happened. And now they want to find the man that is in charge before more attacks happen. And this is a story which is, for us, it was so passionate because it's a story of people who did everything they could and it was still not enough. So for us, that's the story of the people who were, in the driving seat at the time trying to solve this case.
And I think, that most of the CIA people have really gave their life to their cause. And you really see how it affects their personal life. The last episode, I think it's not only the fact that Osama Bin Laden was caught, but it was the journey and the personal cost that each one of the people had to give. And I think also the personal cost of America itself and the world. It's global. I do think it's a global story. It's not only a story that affected the US, it's a worldwide story.
I love the look of luxury, but knowing that I got it at a great price. And I feel like you're like me too. And that's why I know you're going to love Quince. Quince is my go-to for luxury essentials at affordable prices. I get DMs all the time. Where did you get that sweater? I'm telling you, I got it at Quince. You know why? They offer high quality items at prices within reach. And the best part, all Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. So they do this by partnering directly with top factories. So Quince cuts the cost of the middleman and then passes the savings on to us. And the best part, it only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And who doesn't love that? In fact, the thing you need to get right now are the toasted almond silk pajamas. It's a beautiful gift for someone in your life or just for yourself. So give yourself the luxury you deserve with Quince. Go to quince.com/KKC for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/KKC to get your free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/KateCasey. Did you know that Fast Growing Trees is the biggest online nursery in the U.S. with thousands of different plants and over 2 million happy customers? They have all the plants your yard needs, like fruit trees, privacy trees, flowering trees, shrubs, and so much more. Whatever plants you're interested in, Fast Growing Trees has you covered. You can find the perfect fit for your climate and space. Fast Growing Trees makes it easy to get your dream yard. You order online and get your plants delivered directly to your door in just a few days, without ever leaving home. Their Alive and Thrive guarantee ensures your plants arrive happy and healthy. And plus, you get support from trained plant experts on call to help you plan your own landscape, choose the right plants, and learn how to care for them. For example, I knew that I was in the growing zone 10 and I picked out the most perfect lemon tree. It's so cute. It makes me so happy every time I walk outside. This spring, they have the best deals for your yard, up to half off on select plants and other deals. And listeners to this show get 15% off their first purchase when using the code KateCasey at checkout. That's an additional 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code KateCasey at checkout. Fastgrowingtrees.com, code KateCasey. Now's the perfect time to plant. Use Kate Casey to save today. Offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply. Well, if we were to set the tone, I think this really begins in 1989 when the Soviet Union pulls out of Afghanistan, the assassination of Najibullah, and then how Osama bin Laden begins to fund this movement of fighters, of Afghans that were looking for a sense of purpose. So when the women that you feature start to see these red flags, it's surprising because they're sort of pushed away by people in the CIA. Several of them said that in reviews, they were told that they were too obsessed with this.
Us, the personal perspective of the women analysts in our show was dear to us from the first minute. I mean, their story, and obviously I identify as a woman, of, them telling their people, look, something is happening here, and called obsessive. To me, it broke my heart. And I'm sure that this happens also in history so many times after, right? That they call out, and because they're women, people don't listen to them. And I do think it's a cautionary tale about it, these are really smart women. And I think that it's a combination of that. And also, of course, afterwards in the 9/11 committee, they're hearing that the government is trying kind of to say to them, oh, you didn't imagine that event. And that was really hurtful for them because they gave everything for it. They paid personal family costs that, that sometimes a woman is, like a man when he goes to work, many times people are, it's okay. And obviously for a woman, some of the women were also on the ground, and it's a different personal cost. And so for me, the women are so, so dear to me, so smart, so amazing. And I'm so happy that, that we gave them the voice. Obviously also, Mike Morrell and Kofa Black and all of our other contributors are important in the same level. But, to me, obviously, as a woman, it was important for me that their voice will be heard.
I think the biggest tragedy here really is that, at the beginning, people called them obsessive or hysterical, but then people started to listen, and it did go up the levels and it did go up the ranks, and they did sound the warning alarms and the warning bells. But in the end of the day, they just didn't have all the intel, and you never have all the intel. You can never know exactly what is going to happen in each and every terror attack. If you stop 99 of them, you'll still have one that you didn't stop. And that's the one that everybody knows about. The 99 others are, not written in the history books because they're classified. So in the end of the day, analysts will always fail. And that's the tragedy of them, really.
Then they talk about this increased sense of dread, that fear amongst many of them. So they have quite a bit of intel, but not enough to put the pieces together.
For people in the US, many of them forgot that after 9/11, it was just an international mayhem, basically. Madrid and London and Turkey and so many others, and just al-Qaida spread everywhere. And all of that is during, a period in which they keep thinking of how to attack the US again with bigger attacks. And I think we all kind of forgot about that. We think about 9/11 and not of 9/11 as the beginning of a worldwide terror campaign.
Right. You have the East Africa bombings in 2008. You have the USS Cole in 2000. And then once September 11th happens, you display in the series that just a few days afterwards, Operation Jawbreaker begins. So walk me through the conversation that you have with each other and your team about how to get all of the people to participate in this project. How hard was it to reach out to many of them logistically?
We had the best producer on earth, a producer by the name of Michael Rodetsky, who was also a renowned producer for 60 Minutes.
Right, for 60 Minutes, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And he has such a close relationship with all the powers that be, that they really trusted him to tell the story right. And, one by one, he just got everyone on board. And we are just so privileged and humbled that, they trusted us to tell their story, because it's really, for us, it was about, we need everyone to tell the story right.
I mean, it is kind of the definitive story. In such a big platform. It was important to us to tell the story with the right voices, with the right people, with the people that were really there, that could really take us into this 24, 7, journey, and really be there and really listen to their voices as the people who really was in the front seat. So, I mean, we were very, very lucky with Michael Rodetsky and with all the people that felt that this is the right moment to tell the story, and all the people that understood, that this is the definitive story about it. And this is the opportunity for the first time to really tell the story.
Did you notice anything stylistically that was interesting or helpful or different about working with someone so closely who has worked at 60 Minutes?
For us, it's really about the fact that, getting into the elites of the CIA and the Department of Defense and obviously the DC corridors, they don't answer emails,
Right.
They answer people who they've actually worked with and who know to be fair. And I think it's really about that. And, I think the CIA was such a punching bag for so many docs over the years, saying like, 9/11, it's a CIA screw up, which is really, very, very far detached from the truth. And for us, it was really about, okay, we want to tell the story from 9/11 and until you got him, and tell it right.
There were so many interesting interviews along the way. Number one, Cindy's story. I'm so glad, again, that you're giving her a moment to really just highlight her incredible work. Cindy and Gina. Gina, a mother of 5, by the way, pregnant with her 4th child on the day of 9/11 in the bathroom with morning sickness. Do you feel like when you were talking to the others that internally there is a sense of reverence for those women?
Absolutely. I think that the CIA, is a very close community.
It seems like it.
They're a very close community, and I feel that Michael Morell and that Koffer Black, Gina, they were all gathered so closely together. I think that most of them obviously are in close relationship to this day. They've been in the battle together. And so I think that they very much appreciate each other, respect each other, know of each other, in the corridors of the interviews. Obviously, a few times we had meetings at the corridors of, like Gina coming in and Michael Morell coming out. It was amazing to see. It was such warm atmosphere. And yeah, we were really honored that they agree and trusted us to tell the story, because it is, a nuanced story and an important one.
How easy was it to get access to not just the people that you've interviewed, obviously, but the archival footage, the videos? What was that process like?
We are archive buffers. We love archives since, our first project to this day. For us, archives is not just to cover things. They are, the diamonds in our films. So we had, again, we have the best archive team that goes with us from project to project to project. Ninja Archives, for the past 10 years, we love them. And yeah, we were lucky to have them and to dig in every hole.
Were there any interviews that you were unable to get that in retrospect you're like, oh, that would have been great?
We were chasing after President Obama forever, and we hope now he will finally reconsider, because, hey, you had a part in all that.
Mm-hmm. Even President Bush.
Both of them. We really wanted to interview them.
Yeah.
It was a dream. I told Daniel, if we get them, I'm the one that is interviewing them. But it never happened. So.
But next time.
Next project.
This show is sponsored by Liquid IV. Now, I've said that my goal this year is to stay more hydrated. You can gift yourself the everyday indulgence of extraordinary hydration from Liquid IV, powered by Live Hydroscience. They've got true-to-fruit flavors that keep you hydrated. And you can find all your favorite hydration multiplier flavors on their website. I have to say my favorite flavor is the sugar-free raspberry lemonade, because it's a bright, zero sugar flavor combining notes of ripe, freshly picked raspberries and citrusy, zesty lemon. And it really gets me going on my day. I think you're going to love it too. I like feeling like I'm hydrated all day long. And if you're somebody who's outdoors or plays sports, this is an absolute must-have. You can break the mold and own your own ritual. Just 1 stick and 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. It's 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink. And also 8 essential vitamins and nutrients, always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free. Treat yourself to extraordinary hydration from Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code KateCasey at checkout. That's 20% off your first order with code KateCasey at liquidiv.com. You know that feeling when your kids seem to ask you for a new snack every 3 minutes, but you're sick of giving them junk-filled options? This is why I love Thrive Market, my go-to online grocery store for getting all of my healthy essentials delivered, and I don't even have to leave my couch. And I don't know about you, but I want to be able to pronounce the ingredients on my kids' snack labels. There are over 10,000 food additives allowed in the U.S., and it's hard to know what's actually safe to eat. Again, another reason why I love Thrive Market. It's the no-junk online grocery store that bans over 1,000 harmful ingredients. So imagine this. My kids love Doritos. Now I can get them Late July Garden Ranch tortilla chips, and it is a dream. And guess what? I'm just tipping the iceberg here. There is so much more. With their online filters, it's going to make it simple to shop by the needs of everyone in your family. And trust me, I get it. We all have things that we love to eat. So get ready to make the switch. Go to thrivemarket.com/Kate Casey for 30% off your first order plus a free $60 gift. That's THRIVE market.com/Kate Casey, thrivemarket.com/Kate Casey. I think also in watching it, you have a window into true leadership. I think that's what I'm kind of was a marvel to me, was this moment in time where people in positions of power really did work together. There was like a common goal, but some of the personalities that maybe at this point I was unfamiliar with, like Michael Morell, who is quiet but steady, and then seeing the pictures of him on Air Force One on 9/11, and then listening to him tell the conversations in those days after 9/11, and then fast forward to the moment where President Obama is about to announce that Osama bin Laden has been killed, and how distracted he was by that, especially in his own marriage. And he's basically on the heels of a divorce. So again, I know you have mentioned this before, but can you give us a window into the sacrifice that a lot of these men and women made in the years that it took to pursue Osama bin Laden?
I think, first of all, as for your first question about, people working together, it is, truly inspiring and something, we should go back to that peaceful transition of power, in which once Obama, he gets the news and the final green light about the assassination of Osama bin Laden, pretty much his first phone call is to former President Bush.
I was going to ask about that. I did wonder that.
And he really fills him up on all the details.
He sends Mike Morell, actually. He sends Mike, the first thing he says to Mike Morell, you was his briefer when it happened. And President Bush tried to do anything, right? But he disappeared, Osama bin Laden. So the moment that they caught him, he asked Mike Morell to fly over to Bush's house.
Really?
And
the beauty of the story is basically Morell was sitting there and he was briefing him for hours and hours and hours about every single detail that has to do, because Bush wanted to know everything about it. And after 4 hours of him giving him all the details, President Bush said, today me and Barbara we're going to go see a movie, but this is better than any movie. So we're staying.
And thank you for coming. And it was important for President Obama to share this news, and Morell flied like directly. And so I love this story. I mean, I wish we could find it a place in the series, but there was so much more, obviously, and to tell, and so many amazing scenes that stayed on the floor of the editing room.
Were there any in particular that you wish that people could see, in addition to the scene with Michael Morell and former President Bush?
I mean, there's really so much.
There is the Daniel Pearl story, which is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And for us, also a very personal one. And I mean, it all connects to each other. Daniel Pearl was exactly at the time of after 9/11, and he tried to investigate where is the money for al-Qaida is coming for. And he was kidnapped and he was murdered brutally. And this unfortunately did not get in, but so many other scenes and important stories and the thread of what happened 9/11 until the minute that they caught him is in the series.
but we really would love everyone to watch it, and also, to just do the research and learn more, because there's so much more than these 3 hours. It's really a subject that you should dive into.
The last episode in particular, it feels like a movie. It truly does, the way that it all plays out. When you're putting together that episode, how do you not become emotional as it all plays out? I'm assuming that there were many moments where you just have to take a moment and just cry.
Of course. I mean, I think that in all of our films, we're very, very connected to the characters, to the stories, to the moment. And all of the contributors gave us really such amazing interviews. And, before we started the show, we always preparing and seeing all the archives and interviews. And we saw everything before. But then when, Robert O'Neill, when Michael Morrell, people from the CIA that was under shadow, and I can't, and we can't, but are still working for, those are all voices that I heard for the first time. I never heard this before. It's not out there. So of course we got emotion, and we cried in interviews and cried together with our characters. But, that's what cinema is for and film is for, and to really make that emotion going and to tell the story, not as a history lesson, but really as a very cinematic experience, that you feel that you are there and that you're together with the characters, that you're with them going through this journey. And I'm happy that we succeeded, if that was your question.
Without question. What is going to be the one thing that stays with you about this project?
For me, I think it's really about that moment that changed history. I mean, looking back, it really, so much has changed. I think, it's not about that moment in time for me. It's about the days before, when you see people, going on planes and they're not really screened or x-rayed. And you have much less suspicion, in the streets or in airports. And that feeling of fear that became just part of our life, it's a bit hard to remember that there was a time before that. And I think really when we look at that, we can really see how Bin Laden changed America. And even though we caught him, and even though, justice was done, he did change us, all of us, not only Americans, but, he changed the world, and not for the better.
Well, this is really just excellent. I hope that you win awards for it, because you so deserve it. Thank you again for the work you put into this. I'm telling you, I wept at the end of it. American Manhunt, Osama Bin Laden premieres on March 10th. Excellent work. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
The amazing Kate Casey.
If you are looking for more 9/11 episodes, I have several. In episode 217, I interviewed award-winning journalist and best-selling historian Garrett Graff to discuss his book, The Only Plane in the Sky, which tells the story of 9/11. Drawing on never-before-published transcripts, recently declassified documents, original interviews, and oral histories from nearly 500 government officials, first responders, witnesses, survivors, friends, and family members, he paints the most vivid and human portrait of the September 11th attacks to date. Episode 296, I interviewed Alison Crowther, mother of Wells Crowther, subject of several documentaries, including The Man in the Red Bandana on ESPN and Man in Red Bandana on Amazon Prime. Wells Crowther, age 24, was a rookie equities trader for Sandler O'Neill from Upper Nyack, New York. He died in the terrorist attack on the World Trade Center on September 11, 2001, and he became known as the Man in the Red Bandana for the handkerchief he wore as a protective mask while assuming a rescuer's role in the South Tower before it collapsed. He is credited with helping at least 18 people escape the tower in several trips up and down stairwells before perishing alongside a group of New York City firefighters. Episode 311, I interviewed filmmakers Jules and Gideon Naudet. They talked about two of their most notable films about terrorist attacks, including their documentary 9/11. It is a 2002 documentary film about the September 11th attacks in New York City. It is spellbinding. Jules taped one of the only 3 known recordings of the first plane hitting the North Tower, Tower 1 of the World Trade Center on the attack day. The video camera that Jules was using that captured Flight 11 crashing into the World Trade Center is now on display in the National Museum of American History in Washington, D.C. And then episode 391, retired Army Ranger and my friend Green Beret Joe Healy discussed being a first responder at the Pentagon on September 11th and the mental health toll of its first responders and veterans. And lastly, episode 638, I interviewed Garrett Graff one more time about a documentary called 9/11, The Fifth Plane, and he discusses the captain of United Flight 23 and those that investigated the terrorist attacks. He is a host of the podcast Long Shadow, and that was a fantastic discussion. I want to thank you for listening to this episode and remind you to click subscribe, leave a 5-star review. Please join the Facebook group, Reality Life with KKC. You can get my list of what to watch in unscripted TV by going to kkc.substack.com. And I've got bonus episodes, and you can get them by going to Patreon, patreon.com/KKC. And follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram at @KKCCA, TikTok, it's KKC, and Twitter and Threads at @KKC.
Average is not invited. Not if you're holding your company off-site in Las Vegas. We aren't on friendly terms with the bare minimum, and unenthusiastic is uninvited. Las Vegas's creative energy and world-class hospitality want to bring your company off-site to crazy new heights. That's why fear-based leadership is afraid of Vegas, and boring won't be there, but it will be watching the meeting recordings later. Plan for the extraordinary at vegasmeansbusiness.com.